Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett did what few have dared, publicly shutting down Vice President Kamala Harris in a dramatic and unfiltered clash that has left millions stunned. With tensions already high in the room, Crockett's bold declaration, "This isn't your show, be quiet," reverberated through the chamber and immediately set social media ablaze. This unanticipated face-off is not just another political headline, it has now become a symbolic lightning rod for a deeper, more combustible rift within the Democratic Party itself. As the nation tries to make sense of this raw and unvarnished showdown, the consequences for both leaders and the broader future of Democratic unity could be far-reaching. Jasmine Crockett had come to that meeting armed not with platitudes or rehearsed talking points, but with raw, visceral concern for the constituents she serves in Texas. She brought with her the stories of families struggling to pay for groceries, working mothers juggling 2 jobs without health insurance, and entire neighborhoods forgotten by both political parties. When Harris, attempting to rally the room around party unity and a renewed push for Biden's re-election, began speaking in sweeping generalities about progress and historic victories, it became the tipping point for Crockett. According to those present, the vice president's remarks about staying the course and trusting leadership to guide us through these uncertain times triggered an immediate reaction from Crockett, who leaned forward and, in full view of her colleagues, demanded that Harris stop talking and listen for once. Her voice, sharp and unwavering, cut through the carefully choreographed atmosphere and replaced it with an energy so unpredictable, no one dared to intervene. The fallout was instant. Phones vibrated under the table as aides rushed to issue texts and updates to their bosses. Members of the press who got wind of the incident began frantically calling sources, desperate for confirmation. Within an hour, clips from inside the closed-door meeting were leaked, short, shaky footage showing the precise moment Crockett interrupted Harris, and the vice president's stunned reaction. The videos exploded online. Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube were saturated with breakdowns, memes, and side-by-side comparisons of Crockett's audacity and Harris's frozen response. Hashtags like #Crockett vs Harris and #Silence in Power trended nationwide. Political influencers and content creators dissected the exchange frame by frame, interpreting every facial expression and micro-gesture as a clue to deeper political symbolism. Crockett, rather than backing down or apologizing, leaned into the moment. In subsequent interviews, she doubled down on her position. She emphasized that her objection wasn't personal, but structural. Too often, the people who claim to lead aren't listening, she said during a fiery appearance on a morning political panel. They come into rooms like these, repeat talking points from 2 years ago, and expect applause. Meanwhile, folks in my district can't find jobs that pay a living wage, can't keep the lights on, and can't afford to go to the doctor. I'm not going to sit quietly while someone gives a campaign speech when we should be drafting solutions. Her comments were met with cheers by some and harsh criticism by others. Centrists in the party warned that such public confrontations could weaken the Democrats at a crucial time. But for many activists and everyday voters, Crockett had said what needed to be said. She had given voice to the dissatisfaction that so many feel about the gap between Democratic rhetoric and the lived reality of millions of Americans. Vice President Harris, a figure long celebrated as a barrier breaker and symbol of progress, found herself in unfamiliar territory, on the defensive. Her team released a carefully worded statement praising the passion of all Democratic voices and reiterating Harris's commitment to inclusive leadership. But the vice president herself remained silent in the days that followed, making no public appearances that could invite press questions about the incident. Behind the scenes, however, sources reported that Harris was deeply frustrated, not just by Crockett's words, but by the fact that no one had stepped in to defend her in real time. The episode highlighted a critical vulnerability in Harris's standing within the party. She is respected, certainly, but not universally feared or followed. Her authority, unlike that of former Democratic heavyweights like Nancy Pelosi or even Barack Obama, appears increasingly symbolic and tenuous. Crockett's rise is emblematic of a new breed of Democrat, young, unapologetically progressive, media-savvy, and fundamentally unwilling to play by the old rules of decorum. In the past, it would have been unthinkable for a sitting member of Congress to silence a vice president in a public setting. But Crockett's calculation was not based on tradition. It was based on urgency. As she explained in a later interview, we are facing existential threats, poverty, racial injustice, climate catastrophe, and too many people at the top are worried about optics. I don't have the luxury of playing nice when my community is being crushed. Her words struck a chord with millions who have grown disillusioned with the pace and scale of change from Democratic leadership. Her message was clear: if the Democratic Party is going to survive, It must stop talking at people and start listening to them. The incident has sparked an internal reckoning within the party. Senior Democratic strategists are divided over how to respond. Some argue that Crockett should be reined in, fearing that unchecked dissent could unravel hard-won coalitions. Others believe that Crockett represents the future, and that suppressing voices like hers would only deepen the party's disconnect from grassroots energy. Polls taken after the incident show a noticeable spike in Crockett's national recognition, particularly among voters under 35 and among Black and Latino communities. Meanwhile, Harris's approval numbers remained stagnant, with many Democrats unsure about her role in a second Biden term. The contrast between the two women, one ascending with raw honesty, the other descending into carefully managed silence, has only intensified the narrative that the torch may soon be passed, whether party elites are ready or not. The media landscape has further amplified this dynamic. Major outlets like CNN and MSNBC have hosted panel discussions about the implications of Crockett's outburst, with commentators noting that while such confrontations are rare, they are not unprecedented. However, what makes this moment unique is the public's reaction. Instead of recoiling at the perceived disrespect toward a vice president, many viewers have celebrated the moment as a breath of fresh air. The message was simple: power should be challenged, even when it wears the same party colors. Progressive news networks and independent journalists have hailed Crockett as a new kind of leader, one who speaks plainly, acts decisively, and refuses to be intimidated by status or title. Behind the public spectacle lies a more intimate human drama. Harris, a trailblazer in her own right, has spent years fighting battles in male-dominated political arenas. To be called out so forcefully by a fellow black woman in front of cameras and colleagues was undoubtedly painful and disorienting. It's a reminder that representation alone is not enough. Values, authenticity, and accountability matter just as much. For Crockett, the risk was immense. She could have played it safe, kept her head down, and followed the script. Instead, she chose defiance, and in doing so, she has rewritten the script entirely. As this confrontation continues to dominate political discourse, grassroots organizations have begun rallying behind Crockett. Fundraising campaigns, town halls, and social media campaigns have positioned her as the voice of the people. There's already speculation about her future, whether she might run for Senate, take on a leadership role within the party, or even pursue a White House run down the line. While such talk may seem premature, the momentum is undeniable. Crockett has become more than just a congresswoman. She's become a movement. But what does this mean for the Democratic Party moving forward? The answer is as complex as the party itself. On one hand, moments like these can fracture unity, embolden adversaries, and feed into narratives of dysfunction. On the other hand, they can also serve as vital wake-up calls, reminders that democracy thrives on dissent, and that the most effective leaders are those who are willing to hear uncomfortable truths. For too long, the Democratic Party has relied on messaging strategies that gloss over internal contradictions. Crockett's confrontation with Harris forces those contradictions into the open. It challenges the party to evolve or risk obsolescence. This moment, raw and unscripted, has laid bare a reality that many have sensed but few have dared to articulate. The Democratic establishment can no longer count on blind loyalty. The next generation of leaders is not interested in preserving power structures. They're interested in dismantling them when they fail to serve the people. Crockett's words, and the conviction behind them, are a signal that the status quo is no longer sustainable. And as more voices like hers rise to the forefront, the party will have no choice but to listen or risk losing its soul. The energy unleashed by this confrontation is not going away. It will fuel debates, inspire campaigns, and shape policy agendas for months, perhaps years, to come. Whether Kamala Harris decides to respond more forcefully, attempt reconciliation, or retreat from the spotlight remains to be seen. But the larger story is already clear. A line has been drawn, not just between two politicians, but between two visions of leadership, one that leans on prestige, tradition, and hierarchy, and one that dares to speak uncomfortable truths, no matter who's in the room. If you believe that real change comes from those who speak truth to power, no matter the cost, then let this moment be a call to action. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned as we continue to follow Jasmine Crockett's fearless rise and the political shockwave she's sending through Washington. The revolution may not be televised, but it's sure going viral.